participating.
Every time you open the paper, or turn on the news, or hear another story about a company, some executives, or some famous person with allegations of wrongdoing, do you wonder how they could be so stupid? What were they thinking? Our speaker today was forced to answer that question himself when he went from a highly paid real estate executive to a convicted white-collar felon. He served 37 months in a federal prison and now has a passion to tell his story so others do not make the same mistakes he did. He believes that his time in prison provided ample exposure to why people lapse into unethical or illegal behavior. It certainly allowed him time for self-examination. Today our speaker is an author and consultant, helping financial services professionals to improve their ethical decision-making abilities. Please join me in welcoming from Atlanta, Kevin Foster.
Ethics are a complicated problem and difficult for most people to understand. The problem is that ignoring ethical problems can have devastating consequences, as you are about to hear. Once upon a time, I was a successful real estate executive. My wife and I traveled the world. We owned a mansion on the river. We had a place in the Virgin Islands. Drank fine wine and drove fancy cars. We never thought that things could change in an instant, and they did. And I found myself here, in prison, in solitary confinement, in a cell block that looks very much like this. It was in the solitude of that cell that I decided that no one should have this experience. I am here today so that you do not have your picture taken like this. And you thought your driver's license picture was bad. They didn't even ask me to smile. And I know what you're thinking. You are thinking that this could never happen to me. Well, yeah, that's what I thought too. But I was sorely mistaken. So I am here today to share with you the personal characteristics and circumstances leading to unethical behavior which could lead to criminal liability. Consider this, there are 5,000 criminal laws, another 10,000 to 300,000 federal regulations that can get you put into prison. Certainly too many for any one person to know, and not knowing that you are breaking the law is not a defense. But have you ever noticed that most criminal prosecutions do not involve minor infractions of laws and federal regulations, but are actually small slips that are preventable by adhering to ethical principles? So I developed an ethics toolkit because most ethics are an enigma to people, something mysterious, something puzzling. And I would like to take the complexity out of ethics. So let me tell you the rest of my story, and along the way I will provide you with clues that lead to unethical behavior. And perhaps you have seen these clues in your own life and have ignored them and not said things to other people. When I worked for the real estate company, I noticed small things that the owners were doing that were illegal or perhaps just unethical. But I ignored them. I said, that's them, not me. Well, here is a clue. That was stinking thinking on my part. As the money continued to roll in, and I lived the high life, one of the owners said to me, you know, I walk the line between being illegal and legal. He used to call it being in the light or crossing into the dark side. I ignored that clue. But it was very obvious that we had integrity issues with the leadership in our company. As I continued to lead the high life and the money rolled in, I questioned how lot closings were processed. And the owners told me this is what the bankers set up. In fact, we got a legal opinion from a real big law firm that blessed the entire process. Here is a clue. I should have trusted my gut, but I relied on flawed third-party validation. Incredibly, I ignored another big clue. One of the owners told me that when this all goes down, I'm not going to be the only one going to prison. Well, who did I think he was talking about? Certainly not me. I missed that clue. And here's another one. The sad thing is that I did not consider the consequences of all the unethical behavior going on all around me. Everything that was happening was preventable. I missed that clue. I never thought that a phone call could change my life in such a memorable way. But I'll never forget it. That call came from our corporate attorney. He called and said that the state attorney general had just sued the company and all of its officers, which included me, for alleged fraud. And there was a federal criminal investigation. The feds were not accusing me of directly defrauding anyone. Instead, they were accusing me of conspiracy. Their theory was that as an officer of the corporation, I had to know that there was a fraud being perpetuated, going on. And since I did nothing to stop it, I must have participated in it. Well, the way that the conspiracy laws work, there is no difference in the law between someone who actively defrauded someone and somebody who conspired with them. All they had to show was that I touched the conspiracy with an email, with a phone call. The burden of proof is so low. This is why the feds charge so many white-collar defendants with conspiracy. So ultimately, the feds presented my attorney with two options. The first option entitled me to go to trial. It's going to cost me over $1 million in legal fees, and my attorney thought I would lose. I was looking at a prison sentence in excess of 20 years. Or I could plead guilty to one count. Well, life is full of options. And sometimes those options are lousy, and that was the case here. But for better or for worse, I decided to take the one count. Everything was preventable. But I would spend 37 months in the federal prison. And as I conclude, let me tell you one more story that does have a happy ending. When I received a phone call from our attorney, I offered my wife a divorce and everything that we owned. I loved her too much to put her through the agony that I knew was sure to come. And all she could say was for better or for worse. Now that is true love. I knew I had done something right in my life, but for better or for worse summed up what our lives were going to be like for the next 10 years. So I invite you to go forth and do not make the same mistakes that I made. The clues are all around you.
Oh, man.
We've been seeing this for a year.
Oh, wow, so
You've
great.
heard the story a long time.
Yeah.
We're all in ProPath together, and
Oh, I
he's
got
been
you.
working on it for a year, and
Wow.
man, is it different.
Yeah, it's totally.
Yes.
Okay, did somebody time you?
Yes.
8
That's
minutes, 15 seconds?
no, you were at 10 minutes.
Oh, was I really?
Yeah.
Well, good for you, but you're slow. You were slow.
Yeah, I had been timing about 8 minutes and 15 seconds, thinking with pauses, and the thing in between that would probably get up to 10 minutes. So this is the first time that's truly live.
Truly live.
And so, 10 minutes, so Sean's not gonna yell at me.
Let's jump right into Jane's feedback, because we've got about 12 minutes for your feedback.
Right,
So
okay.
take it away,
Jane,
Jane.
here or stand?
You can do it either way, your
Okay.
preference.
Okay. Lance, stand with you.
Perfect.
Please.
Stand up here.
Please,
I have made some notes.
okay,
Will you shake your head first?
okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm in a little bit of a negative situation because you've all heard the speech before, but then it's fresh to me. One of the things that I think is especially good is your PowerPoints. They're great. I would consider, if it's available to put out there, starting with I received a phone call. That phone call changed my life. I learned about the alleged fraud. You're about maybe 2/3 of the way in, and then you went into the difference between conspiracy and active fraud, and then you went into here were my options.
Right.
Though that part of the speech is stronger than, oh, I had a clue, I didn't get it.
Right,
So consider, if you will, putting that at the beginning. or
I
not.
will, and just for clarifying when I'm here, there are certain tidbits I'm trying to get into the film for ProPath that are going to go on my website. So the toolkit, all that is all things that which I'm selling that's going to go on the sizzle reel
Okay.
on there. And I did used to start with that phone call. And matter of fact, most people in here saw that version previously.
Okay.
But for a
It's up to
number
you.
of reasons, decided not to do it this way right here. But I appreciate the feedback. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
When you do tell the story, though, about the difference between conspiracy and active fraud,
Mhm.
that'd be a good place for another slide, because it was a little confusing, it's a little technical. I might actually add a slide about difference between conspiracy and active fraud.
Okay.
That's what I thought. I would exhort you to find a phrase of your own rather than using stinking thinking. Because stinking, you can say the G
Right.
there. That is actually a pretty famous speaker phrase. You've probably heard it somewhere, and it is awesome. I don't know what your phrase could be, but if there's a way to make a Kevin phrase, I don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would, whenever I hear a phrase that
Zig
is all over,
Ziglar used to use thinking.
so it's taken.
Yeah, I'm thinking, unfortunately, ethics, my ethics toolkit, you see the whole presentation has all these little things fit in there, and that
It's already
fits in there. So I'd like to find
Up to
something to fill in.
Up to you. And speaking of stinking, thinking, you're dropping your G's.
Yeah.
I
Pretty
know, that's always been a
consistently.
problem.
Doing, ignoring, thinking, leading, breaking, knowing.
Yes, I know.
Put that G in there whenever
Thank
you can.
Yeah.
You also have a very nice alliterative phrase, the solitude of the cell. We all know one starts with an S and one starts with a C, but the sound of alliterative phrasing like that is strong. So when you have a strong phrase like the solitude of the cell, you can repeat it and you can call it back. So the
Right.
what did I learn in the solitude of the cell? Let's bring that up again.
Okay.
You were especially good at staying planted. I liked that you were over here for a little while. I liked you were over there for a little while. I need to ask, did you memorize?
No. No.
Okay.
This is not memorized though, it's been practiced.
Okay,
I am terrible at memorizing speeches, so I just try to internalize.
okay.
And this is a story that's been very close to me for
Clearly.
10 years.
Yeah, you know this story pretty well. The reason I ask about the memorization is often when I try to write a speech out word for word for word, I find that phrases that aren't really my way of talking find their way into my speech, such as go forth.
Right.
Do you say go forth a lot? You say that to me, come forth, G, I mean, if you speak
Yeah,
that.
no, but we were looking for something, a way to tie everything together at the very end.
So, take action steps today. Leave this place and go, I'm just saying a phrase like go forth, unless that's really your way of talking, it is not the way to talk.
Okay.
That was silly to say.
All right.
The other question I had, and I'll leave it at this, fantastic, wonderful. Your audience members are questioning whether they are also at risk for fraud. When you begin to bring up, here's a clue I missed, here's a clue I missed, here's a clue I missed, your audience members are going, oh my gosh, what clues am I missing? So because they always want to figure out not just what happened to you, but when you're explaining it, ooh, what happened to me, you need to give them a little bit of a pause to think that through. So let me ask you, are you missing a clue maybe in the leadership of your company? Have you noticed some difficulties in their integrity? Take just a minute. What are you going to do with that? All right, let me tell you more about my story.
That may be a good way to wrap up too. What clues are you missing in your life?
That's good.
Well, yes, but you need a little pause all along the way. Not just
Okay.
one at the end, but let them pause, and you can kind of collect your thoughts. But, you know, go ahead and look really closely at someone and say, have you seen that? What are you going to do? And then move on into your speech. So that's all I've got for you. I hope that was helpful.
Great, thank you very much.
Did you have your hand up?
Just a little thing, you know, every time you speak, I feel mortified because I'm thinking, I am a rule breaker, but I follow the law. And
Right.
I always keep thinking, oh, what would be that I'm doing today that could be illegal that I don't know about?
Right.
So what about putting like some websites where we can pick up and we can search online or something, because we have no clue,
Mhm.
as you say, and so I am very lawful, and I want to follow the law. But if I am doing like 3 felonies a day and I have no clue, where can I find them?
Yeah, I used to quote Harvey Silverglade on that, so.
Well, it sounds like something you should sell in your toolkit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
We've got
Kevin-
7 minutes only.
Kevin, really well done. I liked the joke that you had about your driver's license picture. It was a perfect moment for levity. Having worked in a financial services role in a firm that had, it was stinky there. I liked the way you unfolded the speech. You know, look at the clues, like do you have the fancy house? Do you see all the goodies around you? But I was seeing myself in your talk right from the beginning, and then like wham, like the reality check set in. I loved how you had the beautiful home and then the prison doors. And then you went into the office, you know, is this going on? Maybe you should be considering, so that is actually how it unfolded for me. And when I found out the truth of what was going on, I quit. So I happen to like how you unfolded and drew me into your story. That worked for me.
Great, thanks.
And I would just say that your energy consistently pulls back. So I see that you come close to us and then you retreat, as opposed to being back here and coming forward. And then you run out of runway, so you back up naturally, and then you come forward. So you're still in a state of guardedness. So I
Okay.
say that you need to come up with a way to trust us as an audience.
Okay.
You're still protecting yourself, still worried what we think about you. Please stop worrying about you. Worry about us.
Okay,
And then when you are in the speech for us, it won't sound so rehearsed. It sounds rehearsed because you're guarded. And
Okay.
trust, it comes back to exactly what Jean said. Trust us to love you, because we do.
okay, well, I appreciate that, yeah,
It's
thank you.
good.
All right,
Derek.
What a
And then
difference a
Steve.
week makes.
Yeah.
I mean, we were together last Friday and
Yeah.
you were mortified at everything you had to do. You just nailed it. I thought everything was great. I got lost in one spot, only one
Okay.
spot throughout, and that was when you were talking about litigation does not involve, and it was like you said, small issues. And then I looked at what was on the screen and it says litigation involves usually small issues. I don't know, I want you to look at the tape. Maybe I missed it, maybe it was the way that it was said, but it was
I may have
confusing.
missed out. The point when I started was that most prosecutions come from small slips that
Okay.
can be preventable.
Okay,
I got a
Typically,
little lost there too.
when people break the law, they slip into illegal
Right.
behavior. They don't, not something that they do all at one time, and mine, happened over a period of years.
maybe just find a way to simplify
Yeah, I
that.
think what I heard you say is minor when it sounded like it should have been major.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was
got
thinking too.
confused too, for the
It was a
record.
little
I'll
thing,
take a-
and that's
I'll take a
because I've
look at
heard this speech
I'll
so
take a look
much
at
too, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll take a look at that.
If I need to give it for you though, one more time, I think I can.
I said Steve next, then we'll come to you.
Okay, when you blacked out the slides, that was excellent, the use of that, and then when you did that, you were more real. So you started telling your own story from your own self. Like
Right.
Catherine was saying you were coming forth. But the slides were fantastic. One slide kind of confused me a little bit, ethics tool fix.
Yeah.
Maybe that title could be large and the text underneath a little bit smaller.
I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
And then have your computer in front of you so you can follow along. You don't have to look at the screen. You can see the computer while you're looking at the audience.
Yeah, I'm actually trying not to look at the computer at all. I'm just, I think at Showcase, they're gonna have
Monitors
the
behind.
video monitors at the very back of the room, right?
Yep.
And I've been practicing, I've been doing,
Practicing.
thank you. You sound like my wife. So
That's a
I'm
good
doing-
thing, for
doing
better or
front
worse.
TV, working with this, and I can see a mirror, and so I can see it in the back, so I'm trying to.
There you go.
Right?
Excellent.
So I'm trying to do it.
Abby, you have
Just
something
one
else?
Yeah, really quick, slides much improved, like ownership of the slides and moving through them much improved. So this is really awesome to see it come together for you, and I like how you rearranged a couple of things based on feedback. A couple of slide things that I did see, the prison image looked a little bit blurry from here.
Okay.
And so I can only imagine on a bigger screen with lots of people in a big room, it might look even more blurry.
But don't go back and get another picture.
Well,
Yeah.
but see if that guy can help you kind of crystallize it a bit more, because it did look a little bit blurry, and I hate for that to throw people off. And then one of the things that I noticed with the toolkit slides, or sorry, the clue slides, whichever they were, every single person in there was a young white person.
Yeah.
And so I would think about too, depending on your audience, do we need to have different races or ethnicities, ages, just to kind of make sure that you're being inclusive there?
Okay.
Great. Wendy?
I'm so sorry I missed the majority of your talk. Hey, I'm so sorry, but here's all I could say from what I've seen to where you are now is you feel much more grounded and confident.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We're done. Yep, that's it.
Good job.
Okay, thank you.